Ew.
Oh, so good.
I hate hearing eating noises.
Jason, by that's your second one. We get one each, remember?
You kids sure eat a lot. I thought I might have ordered too much, but look at you, plowing through it already.
Sorry about that, and thanks. Isn't Nanako-chan here? I'd hate to eat her share too.
She's at piano lessons. Don't worry, I set hers aside. Oh, didn't I tell you? Yeah, Nanako started learning the piano.
Good for her.
She should be back any time now. I'm sure she'll be rushing home. Ever since she found out you'd be back, it's all she's talked about.
I am pretty great. I'm glad she's been doing well. Well, no. I want to know how Dojima's doing.
Me? Well, my injuries are healing.
Remember when you thought you'd be done in 2 hours? I mean, we'd be around the 2-hour mark if I hadn't lost to the final boss the first time.
Apart from that, I've been slowly moving on, bit by bit. Actually, I came across some information about an old hit-and-run incident.
The thing about your wife.
The victim was Chisato Dojima, my wife.
Called it.
I've been chasing dead ends and false leads for so long, but I think I'm finally getting close to the truth. Just when I thought I'd keep my personal feelings separate from my job. It's strange.
Really brought down the whole mood of this return dinner, huh?
Though, it's thanks to you that I was able to draw that line in the first place. Thank you.
What happened with last year's case?
Oh, that? Well, I don't know if you heard already, but Namatame got released on lack of evidence. I can't tell you too much, but basically no one could reproduce his supposed methods, not even Namatame himself. He was very insistent on the details of his crimes, but a diary isn't enough evidence to build a case on. He came to me to apologize, but I told him he should come up with his own way to make up for it. He said he was going to run for mayor. I don't know how serious he was about that.
Pretty darn serious. I saw him on my way in.
Oh, so that was Namatame-san giving those speeches.
Oh yeah, and I went to see a Dachi.
What happened to him?
Were you the one to interrogate him?
No, I wasn't part of that. I couldn't be. We were too close. But he was indicted. It was probably just circumstantial evidence, but he said a lot of things only the real killer could know. After they set a trial date for him, I was able to go see him.
I see.
She does have that bullet necklace. Is that from Kanji? I love it. It's actually, like, possibly the biggest OTP I have in the entire Persona series is Kanji and Naoto. 100%.
They say he's a model prisoner. The bastard says he gets better treatment behind bars than he did when he was working with me. Huh. Next time when I go see him, I'll bring him a cheap cabbage.
I'm home.
Oh, look at your hair.
Dad, is Big Bro?
Nope, not here yet.
Big Bro!
Surprise, Nanako?
Welcome home, Nana-chan.
How many people did you kill while I was gone?
Teddie too? And Rise-chan! Everyone's here! I'm learning piano now, and I've been a good girl.
I'm proud of you.
I'll play for you sometime.
I didn't think she'd ask to start piano lessons. Like mother, like daughter, I guess. Chisato was a piano teacher, but Nanako's pretty good herself. At first, I didn't even want to hear the word piano. Now that she wants to learn, I gotta get over it.
I remember what my mom played. I'm gonna play it for you, Dad. Dad, the weather report's on.
The fog is set to roll in.
And now, the weather. It was nice and sunny today, but what will it look like after that? Take it away, Mariko.
Hello.
What?
Mariko Kasumi here. We've been having a lot of rain recently, so starting today, I'm gonna make it sunny.
Can you control weather now?
I mean, after all that rain, I don't think we're gonna have to worry about any water shortages this summer. And besides, someone's visiting. I can't have so I'm gonna keep it sunny for a while.
Is this like a joke of how you're saying this as if you control it, or do you actually control the weather? Also, how did you get employed when you have, like, no birth certificate, no school, like, diploma of any sort? Like, how?
Mariko, please calm down.
Oh, but if it gets too hot, then some rain should be fine. He should tell me whenever he wants it different, and I'll change it. Just like that.
How did you get hired? And you're definitely getting fired for this. The weather forecaster is Marie.
Oh, I forgot to mention.
She's been coming here a lot. She's famous now.
How'd she get so popular so fast? What was the station thinking? Her stage name's so boring, too.
Someone's a little jealous. Also, I get slightly more upset every time I see Kanji's hair.
This girl will decide tomorrow's weather, right? Whenever she says it's gonna be sunny, the sun comes out.
Well, yeah, she's like some kind of a goddess, so.
In her case, maybe.
Thanks, Mariko. Tell our viewers goodbye.
I hope you all have a good day tomorrow. Remember, the more you put in, the more you get out. The more you get out.
I see that weather girl a lot. The younger ones at the station tell me they feel motivated whenever she does that.
Remember when, like, for the first half of this game, the entire plot was basically just hearing Nanako say, "Every day's great at your Junes," or whatever it was? Like, they totally, for the first half of the, I just now remembered it, because for the first half of the game, Nanako says it, like, once a week. I haven't heard anyone say it in ages. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I feel it a little myself, to be honest.
If you date Marie, she would have told you that she loves you on the TV. Oh, that's really nice. That's cute.
Well, I'm just glad the weird fog is gone. Now we don't have to obsess over the weather report.
It is really great, though. Everyone in town is more motivated.
Yeah, people have so much energy now.
You're right. It doesn't wear you down walking through town anymore. Not like last year.
Everyone has a more positive outlook on life than when I first came.
It shows people can change. For better or worse, I guess. Depends on your perspective. After the fog lifted, I'm sure people just realized that it's a lot brighter when your eyes are open. There's a lot we'd rather not see. A lot of grime in the human heart. But if you close your eyes to everything, you can't even see the people close to you. How can you be happy like that? The only thing to do, really, is to keep marching on, straight ahead. I'm rambling, aren't I? Guess I had more to drink than I thought. Oh yeah, Nanako, didn't you say there was something you wanted to tell him when he came home?
Your cooking is barely food, Chie.
Hey, shut up!
What about
It's
mine?
cold, Yosuke.
I could have made something, too.
Please don't.
What was that?
I can cook if I put my mind to it. So can I. That's...
Gotcha. Got it?
Hell yeah.
Well then. One and...
Good to see you, Senpai.
Kanji, it was welcome back. How could you mess that up?
Hey, just shut up, all right? I just got stage fright, that's
Well,
all.
I figured someone would blow it.
I love Kanji, man. What the heck? This better not be copywritten. Don't you dare. Don't copyright me, Atlas. Hey, you can copyright it, that's fine. Just don't take down the video. Don't take down the video, I beg of you. This sounds so incredibly like a song that will get copywritten. I would be livid if it was, because it's the very end. So I really hope it won't be, but if it is, I'll just have to like re-record my voice for the YouTube one, but hopefully that's not a problem. You know what? Zynad said it best. Persona 4 Golden, they changed Kanji's hair at the end. 0 out of 10. Game sucks. Sorry. Worst game I've ever played. They changed Kanji's hair. It's awful. I'm just kidding, obviously. But, I don't know. That ending isn't, like, bad. It's still good. I definitely preferred the ending where it was him going on the train. the whole thing of him coming back, it was cute, yeah, but I don't know. It just didn't feel as good an ending as when he was on the train looking at the picture. But also, chat told me that the original game ended with that scene of him looking at the picture, and that scene was golden only. So because of that, that kind of balances out, I guess. So it's still fun. I prefer the ending when he's looking at the train, but seeing them older and stuff is great. I really, really hate Kanji's hair change, though. It's just, he doesn't look like my man Kanji anymore. It's so weird. The glasses and the shirt are fine, but the hair is just, it's too much. Oh, man. But anyways, yeah, Persona 4 Golden, it's done. We've done it. It took me a bit longer than I thought, mostly because the dungeon was longer than expected, and I lost to the boss once. I literally cannot beat a Persona game without losing to the final boss at least once. So, you know, it be that way sometimes. I also don't like Yukiko's new look. She looks better in red, and also she looks way too much like Sayako with her hair up like that. When she walked up, I actually thought she was Sayako for a second. But anyways, yeah. This game is very deserving of, like, 8.5 out of 10, probably. When I finished Persona 5, didn't I give Persona 5 like an 8.5 out of 10? I've changed my opinion of Persona 5. After I played it a second time, not recording, I liked it even more. So Persona 5, for me, is a 9 out of 10 game. This game, I would say, is like an 8.5 out of 10 game. It's really only dragged a little below Persona 5 because of the gameplay, but I'm not going to compare it to Persona 5. I'm just going to talk about Persona 4 alone, and just that, and then I'll compare it to Persona 5 afterwards. But, let me see here. What do I want to talk about first? I'll talk about the easiest thing first. Persona's music is phenomenal. Other than that awful fog music that played for like a month and a half or 2 months, the music in this game is just fantastic. I love it a lot. But, yeah, Persona just always kills it with music. It's great. The cast in this game is fantastic, specifically the main cast of the investigation team. Kanji and Yosuke are probably, like, my 2 favorite characters in Persona, period. Like, for sure. I absolutely love those 2. They have great characters, and all the others are really good, too. Yukiko's story I really like. I really like Rize's story as well. Naoto and Chie are also pretty good. I don't like them quite as much as the other members of the team, but I still like them a good deal, too. It's really just, the main team is all good characters, for sure. The side characters, there are a couple of really good side characters, like Daisuke and Ko were really sick. Yumi's is pretty good. I like Yumi's a good deal. I feel like a lot of the side confidants feel a little sort of not pointless necessarily, but like they definitely put more of the like good character and story building on the main group, and the side confidants don't feel quite as fleshed out or as good as them, but they're also still pretty good. Shu especially, I liked Shu a good deal, and Marie's pretty sick. I really like Daisuke and Ko, and Yumi's pretty cool too. I kind of started to grow on me near the end of the game. I'm looking forward when I play on my own to max her out to see where the rest of her confidant goes, but she started to grow on me. Hisano is like the worst confidant I've ever seen in my life. She's definitely the worst one in this game for sure. I really did not like her at all. This music is really good. I hope it doesn't get copywritten. What else? What other characters were there? Shu was pretty good. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad for sure. I didn't really care for Eri. Eri was kind of felt like just a waste of my time. I never got the Hanged Confidant, but I've been told by everyone that he's possibly the worst one in the game. He's just incredibly boring, so I don't even really care. But that's that. The Fox Confidant is cool as a concept, but also, like, I don't have anything negative or positive to say about the Fox. It's really cool that a Confidant is a fox, and the fox is, like, sick. I like the fox. But also, he's a fox. He doesn't really have any characters, so, you know, there's nothing really super negative or super positive to say about the fox other than the fact that he's cool. Adachi, like, I don't know. I don't dislike Adachi, but I don't really like Adachi very much either. I felt like Adachi was incredibly, like, I'll talk more about Adachi when I talk about the overall plot of the game, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, but, yeah. The next thing, now I'm going to talk about, that's pretty much, like, the really good stuff I talked about, and I'm going to talk about the stuff I'm not a big fan of, which is, the level scaling in this game is whack. It gets a lot better way later in the game after you've played a lot, but like the first 3 to 4 dungeons, the level scaling in it is madness. It's actually just like, hey, go through the dungeon, and when you get to the boss, you better go through the dungeon again, or else you're going to be way too low leveled for, like, the entire game. It's very, very annoying, and I don't like it. And I feel like there are easy ways that that could have been rectified, but it wasn't. I might have to be quiet for a second, because we might be having a last-second cutscene here. Maybe. Let me see. Finish. The other picture was better. Kanji, what have they done to you? Look at how they massacred my boy. It is nice seeing them a little bit older, though. Save the clear data, absolutely. Save complete. I will be doing it in G+ on my spare time to get that platinum. Back at the intro, it looks like. I believe it's well and truly over, boys. There it is. We get to hear this wonderful elevator music one final time. I have to open up the config because otherwise it'll start playing the opening sequence. Back to what I was saying. I'm gonna finish talking about my review of Persona 4, and then I'm gonna take a good like 20 minutes probably to compare Persona 4 and Persona 5 because I said I would. So I'm definitely gonna go a little over today, but that's fine. I'll still have enough time to get my classwork done. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the level scaling in this game is like pretty bad, especially in the early game, and it was a major turnoff, but thankfully it got better as you went. But even as you got, like, in the late game dungeons, I still, a lot of times, ended up being like, alright, we gotta go back to the entrance and redo the first, like, 4 floors, because otherwise I won't have fought enough enemies to level grind up, and that gets, especially in a game where all of the dungeons are made randomly generated, that can get pretty tedious at times. But, overall, it's still really good. The game is still really good. But, and it especially benefits that the level scaling thing becomes less of a problem later on, but it's a really big turnoff early in the game. For the plot of the game, the plot's pretty good. It's a good story. I like it a lot. I feel like Atlas really drops the ball on the whole mystery aspect. The game really feels like it makes a huge deal out of finding out who the killer is. I've had someone try and tell me before that it's not the who, but the why, and I disagree with that. The why is also important, but I feel like the main goal is to figure out who it is, and it feels like a complete waste that it's Adachi, because Adachi gives himself away literally at the very start of the game, and then he never acts suspicious ever again for the rest of the game, but no one else acts suspicious. There is no one in the game that you can possibly suspect aside from Adachi, and I think that that's a major mistake on Atlas's part. There should have been, like, 2 or 3 more characters that were possible suspects in the story, because, you know, it feels like the main point for the majority of the game is finding out who the killer is, but I pretty much knew who the killer was the whole time, and there was never, and even at times, I think it's brought down even more by the fact that Adachi is not suspicious for most of the game, because for most of the game, I just feel like it's Adachi? Is it Adachi? It's gonna be a little lame if it's Adachi, because there's no other suspect, and also Adachi really doesn't do anything other than that one start of his confidant at the start of the game to make me suspect him. And I really, really am not a big fan of that. So I feel like that's the major thing where Persona 4 drops the ball. The rest of the story is really good. I like the stuff with Amano Sagiri and Izanami at the end. That's really nice. A little weird that they focus so much on the whole gas station attendant thing, but I can dig it. So that's really good. And the rest of, like, the whole thing with Kubo and being like, oh, maybe he was the killer, and the whole thing with Morioka being a copycat killing, that was a really, really nice touch. And, you know, the whole thing with Namatame was also really good. I really liked all the stuff with Namatame. Something I will complain about, another thing that I really don't like about the game that brings it down a little bit for me, is the multiple endings. Especially because you can so easily in the game early when you're talking with Namatame. Having to get 6 multiple choice answers right in a row, otherwise you get a bad ending, is just about one of the worst game design decisions I've ever seen in a video game before, for me personally, in my opinion, in my entire life. I really, really, really hate that a lot. And then also, the whole thing with Izanami, you can get to Amano Sagiri and beat him, and then get to Marie, but to do the stuff with Izanami, you have to talk to everyone and then go back to Junes, but the game does not tell you to go back to Junes to talk to everyone to figure out who Izanami is. Chat told me to do that. If chat had not told me to go back to Junes, I wouldn't have. I would have missed Izanami entirely, and I would have thought Marie was the final boss of the game. Marie and Amino Sagiri. I very easily would have missed that, and that's something that I really, really hate. So I hate it. you know, it's one thing to have different endings, like Persona 5 also does, and like I said, I'm not going to compare it to Persona 5, but that's the only other game I play with multiple endings, so it's my only option. But, like, Persona 5 has, apparently it has the stuff where somehow Akechi can actually kill you. That I hate, and then when I play Persona 5 The Royal, I'll talk about how I hate that when I review Persona 5 The Royal. I didn't know it when I played Persona 5. But in Persona 5, other than that, the only real ending you get is when you choose to side with Yaldabaoth or not. That's fine. I'm cool with that. It's the very end of the game, and it's a very obvious, like, hey, here are your two options. Pick one of them. It's a very big deal. That is fine. The stuff in this game where you can miss, like, 3 bosses, like, final bosses worth of content by making the wrong choice is actually terrible. I really don't like it. But, especially because it's so easy to miss Izanami at the very end. So, I'm very much not a fan of that. So, how can you die by Akechi? I was told that if you don't get Sai to believe you by the way you talk to her during the scenes with Sai, then she won't activate Mementos and then Adachi will shoot you like normal. But that's just what I've been told. I haven't double-checked that, but I believe that that is true after seeing the bad endings in this game. So that's another big complaint from me. Anything else? I know there's one other thing I wanted to bring up, but I can't remember what it is. Talked about the story, talked about the level scaling, talked about the music, talked about the gameplay. I think that's everything. Oh, Kanji's social link is trash. Like, trying to unlock it. That's another thing that I really hated. Trying to get Kanji's social link is a nightmare. And that reminds me of something else that I hate. I really hate the moments in this game, and it happens like 4 or 5 times, where you just have to go around and talk to all the NPCs, like 2 or 3 times, to get information. It's so incredibly boring and so incredibly unnecessary, and it just feels like they put it in there to pad more game length, as if this game needs to be longer. And I really hate it. The comedy! That is the last thing I wanted to talk about. Thank you, Tim. This game is hilarious. It is one of the funniest games I've ever played. It's definitely more comedy-focused than a lot of the games I play. You know, again, I'm not going to compare it to Persona 5 right now, but it's obviously a much funnier game than Persona 5. So, the comedy is just really good. However, because it's so comedy-focused sometimes, and this is just a fact of any comedy ever, rather it's like an anime, a normal TV show, or a game. When you have so much comedy, you're bound to have a few duds. The Culture Festival was one of the cringiest, and I hate using the word cringe, but I can't think of any other way to describe it. It's one of the cringiest, most, like, secondhand embarrassment, awful things I've ever seen in my life. So I really did not enjoy that. But the rest of the comedy was all really good. I really liked the ski trip. The hot spring scene was pretty good. Etc. It has a lot of really funny moments. The King's game was really funny until they said that they got drunk without getting drunk, which doesn't happen. That's not real. But it still didn't make the rest that didn't ruin the rest of the funny stuff that happened during that for the most part. But the game is really funny. It drops the funny ball once or twice, but that's to be expected in such a funny game, so, you know, it's expected and it's fine. But, yeah, it's a really good game. I'd give it like an 8.5 out of 10. The actual gameplay mechanics, like the level scaling, and then the having to go around and talk to people repeatedly, those are really the only 2 things that bring it down for me. So there's not much else that I really don't like about the game. I basically am a fan of everything else. As usual, I'm not a fan of how it's like really difficult, if not impossible, to max out all the confidants on your first run. Persona 5 was the same way. But, and I mentioned at the end of Persona 5 that I didn't like that. I'd really rather, going into this second, because I'd already played Persona 5, I put as much focus as I possibly could on maxing out my stats and also maxing confidants as much as possible, and I still couldn't max them all in time. So I am very much not a fan of that. The bosses are all fine. I don't really, other than Kubo's boss, I don't remember like being super annoyed at any of the bosses. I think they were all good for what they were supposed to be. None of them were super infuriating other than Kubo's, I think. And that being super infuriated by Kubo's boss mostly came from the level scaling problems that I already mentioned. But I think that's all I'm going to say for reviewing Persona 4 Golden. So 8.5 out of 10, really good game. Is really only brought down a bit by some bad gameplay choices and level scaling choices. Everything else is done just about great. There's a little bit of problem with the plot, but, you know, when you've got a long anime-style game like this, you're bound to have a little bit of, like, plot, you know, wishy-washiness where it's like, I don't know about that one, that kind of deal. So, you know. But overall, it's very good. So, that is going to be, I think that's going to be it for reviewing that. I don't know if it'll be in the same video or if this is where I'm going to cut off of this video and go to another one, but I am going to spend like a good 20 to 30 minutes probably talking about comparing Persona 4 into Persona 5. But, for those of you who don't care to hear that, because I know there are plenty of people that were watching this playthrough, when I was talking early in the game, I compared them a lot, and people are like, please don't do that, I don't want to hear you compare them. So for those people who are probably going to call it for the playthrough here, thank you all so much for watching. I truly hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in future Persona playthroughs, whether they be Persona 3, Persona 5 Royal, Persona 5 Scramble, etc., etc. I plan on playing a lot more Persona stuff, the Persona Q games at some point. I really, really enjoy the Persona series. I really enjoyed Persona 5, and now after playing Persona 4 and seeing that they had 2 really, really good games back-to-back, I'm excited to play even more of them. So, thank you all for watching, and I hope to catch you in future playthroughs, or to let you hear my comparisons of 4 to 5 that I'm going to do in just a minute. So, but if you don't want to hear that and you're going to call it off here, then thank you so much for supporting the series for all of this. This must have been like about 250 parts. Thank you all so much, and I hope to see you in future playthroughs. Until then, farewell.